Hello and welcome to FF News' FinTech Spotlight. Now today we're going to be talking about Spreedly, and joining me here is Shawn Curtis from Spreedly. Shawn, how are you? You okay?
Hey, yeah, well, how are you?
Absolutely brilliant. We're here at Money 2020 Europe. It's absolutely amazing. How are you finding it so far?
Yeah, so I've been to Money 2020 Vegas like 6 or 7 times over the years. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I really didn't know what I was expecting. It's a little bit, amazingly enough, Vegas is so much larger that this is really enjoyable. It's nice. You have the sky lights coming in, and versus being in a cave,
Yes.
a casino cave in Vegas, and so really enjoying it. Lots of good meetings. It's always good to see people as well that you see 2 or 3 times a year at the conference, on the conference circuit, like we're touring.
Isn't it fascinating? Yeah, you meet the same people and you have that relationship through Money
Yeah,
2020.
yeah, for sure.
Could you tell us, Shawn, and our viewers who might not have heard of you guys, a bit more about Spreedly?
Yeah. That's thanks for asking that question. So, Spreedly is a payments orchestration software as a service, right? So we're a platform. We serve primarily 2 very broad groups of companies: merchants, which we're all interested in here, and then we also serve quite a few platforms that are themselves serving a subset of merchants, right? And so what we do as a payment orchestrator is we provide vaulting tokenization services, and then we connect our customers to any of the downstream payment service providers that they need to utilize, right? So it's a one-to-many connection.
Yeah.
Is kind of the idea, single platform to reach out, and so if you're expanding globally and you're maybe using a service in the US, but you're going to Europe, maybe you have a different provider, it's very easy to add that integration through Spreedly.
You see, that's so important. We often talk about time-poor individuals, especially the merchants, and being able to have that one-into-many approach is so perfect. So how does Spreedly actually enable international merchants to integrate into this kind of digital payment method ecosystem?
Yeah, so it's really kind of, so maybe it would be helpful to say, like, how do we think about orchestration? If you walk around this vendor hall, there are a lot of different ways that companies are defining orchestration. For us, orchestration is about the connection to the third party, right? It's about connecting our customers to the service providers that they want to connect to versus optimization, right? So sometimes you'll hear these terms being thrown around as being the same thing. And so the reason why that's important is because for digital payment methods, our key deliverable is to connect customers, or our merchants mainly, to the payment methods and providers that they most need to connect to. And so for us, that means working with partners like PPRO, for example, to offer a very wide range of payment methods, and allow our customers to be very specific and offer payment methods that are helpful for the industry and locality that they're in.
You see, I absolutely love dissecting local payment methods because there are so many that when you think of them, you're like, why don't I have that in my neighborhood?
Yeah.
You know? So I'd love to get your perspective.
Yeah.
What are some of the ones that really catch you off guard and you're like, oh wow, why don't we have that here?
So I'm kind of in like the U.S., as you probably know, is not exactly the wild, wild west for payment methods, and we have our Apple Pay, whatnot. So and so it's really kind of an interesting story. So let me actually tell you a story.
Great.
I think one of the most interesting ones, you cannot ignore what Pix has done in Brazil, for example. Our neighbor across the street, they just moved in. We had him over for dinner a couple weeks ago, and he's from Brazil, from São Paulo, and he was telling us a story. We got he runs a technology company, so we're geeking out on tech, and he told a story about how they went to a wedding in São Paulo, and he woke up the next morning, stumbled out to the beach, and he's like, I have nothing on me. But then the vendor, the guy serving drinks, is walking down, and he only accepted Pix. And so, my friend pulls out his phone, the neighbor, and he's like, man, I didn't have any cash, I didn't have my cards, I had nothing but my phone, but I was still able to use Pix and get that drink on the beach. So I think that the moral of the story there is that the most powerful payment methods are the ones that meet people in the context and the geography, the context that they're actually in. One more example, is that okay?
Please, go for it.
So I told you before we started, I'm taking one of my children to Switzerland.
Yeah.
And so in Switzerland, of course, one of the dominant APMs is Twint, right? Am I saying that right? Twint?
I've never heard of Twint before.
Twint.
Fascinating.
So I'm going to go with Twint.
But doesn't it show how incredibly diverse and granular
Yeah,
local payment methods
totally.
are?
But so she's going to be there for like 12 weeks, right?
Sure.
And so we're thinking a lot, or I've been, okay, well, how is she going to pay for stuff? What's the APM? What's the local APM that she can use, right? Is there a Pix-like payment method? And it's not exactly like that, but the point is, as we think about taking her to a different culture for the summer, sure, she can use her Visa card, sure, she can use cash if she has it, but also maybe just as a luxury to think about as a payments person, well, what's the APM that's offered there? What's the alternative payment method, the local payment method that might be useful? So
it's an interesting dissection where you've got to weigh up, like, can we just live by card, or actually am I going to have a better quality of life by being able to embrace the local payment method?
Yeah.
Now we've talked about the end consumer there, and it's fascinating hearing it. You can't stop a Brazilian getting a caipirinha on the beach, and Pix will certainly enable it. But I'm intrigued to find out what's an example where Spreedly has come in and actually enabled merchants to really access that local payment?
Yeah, I mean, we could tell a Pix story, but I'll go local to the U.S. and talk about a Venmo story. So a lot of times what we're seeing is that when companies, platforms, merchants want to expand into a new region, they typically start with cards because it's easy. Right? And so, but then there are also use cases where they're working with other partners, maybe with PPRO or someone else, and they're doing some kind of special promotion or whatever the case may be. And so in this particular case, we're working with a restaurant technology company, and so they offer technology infrastructure to restaurants. And you probably never heard of them because they're in the background, right? But in particular, they wanted to implement, one of their restaurant chains wanted to implement Venmo. And so Venmo, as we kind of know, is one of the only real significant APMs or alternative payment methods in the US. And so we worked with them to, this is a niche use case, but it was about implementing Venmo and then rolling it out across a small subset of this franchise, and then soon to the several thousand that they had. And now that's most of the volume going through that particular franchise. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's superb. Now, we've talked about the ability to scale, but how do you reduce the complexity for these time-poor merchants?
Yeah, so I mean, that goes back to what are we as an agnostic payment orchestration platform? Being agnostic, I mean that, so Spreedly's not in the money flow.
Right.
We are a technology platform. We don't play favorites, so to speak. And at the same time, we have key partnerships that we honor and emphasize. So when we look at simplifying complexity, on one hand, it's a technology consideration, right? How do we make the technology simple, scalable, repeatable? How do we design that orchestration layer to take away the complexity? And I'll tell you a secret, it is really stinking hard, really hard. And so a lot of times what actually happens is that when new customers come in, it tends to actually take a good 12 months or so before they are actually ready to truly orchestrate, right? We start small, we build, and it actually takes time to ramp things up. So as we bring in APMs, or I keep saying APMs, local payment methods or app-based payment methods, we bring in the app-based payment methods, often we want to simplify that workflow so that it's as seamless for the merchant as possible, so that adding even just a single alternative payment method is as simple as accepting a Visa card or a MasterCard, right? And devil's in the details, but I mean that's a we have to constantly be thinking about that.
I can imagine, but that's absolutely tremendous. Now, we've gone from the end customer, we've gone from the merchant. Now I want to go the other way. How does Spreedly's partnership with PPRO enable you to really bring this ecosystem together and thrive?
Yeah, so another story. I've been at Spreedly for like 6 years. My very first year, I went to a conference in San Francisco and met somebody from PPRO, had never, too junior in payments to like know all the companies of payments yet. And so this is one of the sales team at PPRO at the time. And I just remember meeting him and he told me what PPRO did and it was like, oh my goodness, like we need that, right? That is what we're looking for. And the reason was because at the time we were getting hammered with, from a sales perspective, we need this alternative payment and this one and this one and this one. And then you come to find out that there is a vendor out there who has largely done the very similar work to what we had done with cards, right? They had done it on a very, a payment method level. And so there's a single integration to plug into. And so for our customers, what that allows us to do is to say, oh, you're going to this, we're here in the Netherlands, so, oh, you're going to the Netherlands? Well, let me pick up Ideal and bring that into the platform, right? You can't go to the Netherlands and do e-commerce without Ideal. And so we can offer that through PPRO very effectively and seamlessly.
See, it's absolutely amazing because every time we think of everything being localized to the minutiae, when we get to this element of scale, you have to be able to do it on a countrywide basis.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to be able to do that without a partner like PPRO.
It is, and it is too, because it's the complexity of it. What it saves us from is choosing, right? And so what I mean by that is, there are many hundreds, maybe thousands of payment service providers. No one company can integrate with them all. And so it takes partnerships to achieve a greater and greater breadth of coverage. You cannot do it alone. And that's a key part of our mission statement at Spreedly is we welcome all comers. Even occasionally some of our competitors are connected to our ecosystem so that we can serve the interests of the merchants as well as possible.
Shawn, it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's great to see you.